Hello everyone, my name is Ron. I'm from the ISOM department, and first thing that I should say is not an expert. I just happen to be the person speaking. So the plan today really is I'd like to share with you what we do in Stage 1 and Stage 2 information systems. So I'm part of the Infosys 110 team. There's 1,000 students in that each semester, so we consider that a large class. And we try to do things as efficiently as possible. And those things we also try to do in other courses throughout our department as well, especially the ones that I'm involved in. I try to replicate stuff that we do in Stage 1 and see how it works for slightly smaller, large classes, such as 200, 300 odd. And it's really my colleagues are the experts. I'm just the one that I'm really opposed to just doing things needlessly. So try to think of ways that we can do things more efficiently. And so I will share with you some things that we do, and the goal is a lot of you will also teach large classes and you'll also have valuable experiences. So at any time, please feel free to ask questions or chime in on your experiences, on something that maybe you've tried something similar that did work, didn't work, etc. So I mean, the best way to describe this is more of a discussion rather than a seminar where I'm giving you all these nuggets of gold, which will not be true. So I hope today will be fruitful for everyone, and I really hope that I can learn something as well from your contributions. So the way I'll approach this is focus on three kind of areas that we think about that we can try to increase efficiencies in assessment design, assessment marking, that sort of thing. And the main thing here is that design is key. So behind all of this is you have to plan accordingly. You have to design your assessments accordingly. And so you have to design for marking, design with marking in mind if you want to get the gains in marking. And so yeah, it takes a lot of planning, a lot of thought behind these things. And not everything's going to work for every class. Not every technique is going to work for every type of assessment, etc. So your mileage will vary, and this is why the contributions from you guys will be important. I want to talk first about automation, and these are things that you can do to pretty much eliminate marking. But of course it involves some sort of overhead, it involves investment up front. You put in the time in designing so that you can get the gains later on. And automation is useful for huge classes with minimal teaching support, or you need quick turnaround times, that sort of thing. Whether you love it or hate it, multi-choice, you don't have to mark it. So that's the beauty of multi-choice. And this is an example of a test script that we have where we have part of the test is multi-choice, not all of it. And with this, we couple that with scanners. So we scan this paper script, and then we use software to read and automatically mark our multi-choice tests. And this is an example of offline multi-choice, and you can do that in any environment. Not just, you can do it in in-class tests, you can do an evening test, but you could also do it in a more small environment. So say your tutorials, you could administer that. So it's under test conditions, you can have an official test in that, and effectively the marking is done for you. Another way to administer multi-choice is online, and most of you will probably be familiar through the CESL quizzes, and that's managed through this thing here, question mark perception. I've actually never done it through that. It's too crazy, too weird, and it's becoming obsolete soon anyway with Canvas. So this is a screenshot from our new LMS, which has built-in quizzes. And you can administer that, design it however you want, do it however you want. It can be informal, it can be a formal assessment, all sorts. So there's actually a lot of things that I'll talk about that Canvas will actually do. And so that's a great thing to look forward to for us. Any questions, any contributions around multi-choice?
Are you saying Canvas has multi-choice that will mark itself?
I don't know about the marking, but I do know you can set up quizzes. Yeah. So, I don't know about the complexity of the marking. Yeah. You can obviously say this is the right answer and that sort of thing. I haven't dug around enough to find out whether you can do kind of customized feedback for each incorrect option and that sort of thing yet. Yeah. But you can. There we go, you can. Thank you.
But you can't do a multi-choice and it's got the software to read the responses, or you could?
Right, so this is just an online quiz. So a student would have to be on the computer, logged in, signed into their Canvas account, and go start a quiz for that to work.
It would take it to the grade book, yes, the result, is that what you're asking?
Yeah, it would Canvas would grade it.
By virtue of you applying a correct answer and an incorrect answer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, we try to kind of simulate this with on a test paper by getting students to color in bubbles and scanning that and reading that, so that all the hassle is gone, basically, the data collection hassle, data entry error, all that sort of thing. Okay, cool. Move on. So another thing that we do is we outsource some of the assessments. And this is a screenshot of an Excel training program that we use. It's called SAM. I don't know what it stands for, but it's provided by Cengage. And so the way this works is students, it's a self-study module. So we have some parts of the course at stage 1 that are self-study. So they learn Excel by themselves through the SAM training. And it's assessed. So they do the modules to learn all the work, and then at the end of each module there's a quiz or an Excel exam that they have to sit and pass, and that's graded automatically. So SAM takes care of all the grading, all the feedback, all that sort of thing. And there's lots of options out there, but the key thing that you really need is some sort of administrative module which grabs the marks for you and allows you to export it into Excel, or something that we can eventually get it and upload it into Cecil for administrative purposes. So anything that you find that has an administrative backend, and actually that's the tricky part, because there's lots of online learning and self-study things that you can give to your students that will suit your class, but usually the administrative backend is not useful at all. So we happen to come across a really useful one in SAM for Cecil training, and we use another one called Code Avengers to teach stage 1 students some basic programming things, and that also has a nice administrative backend as well. Anyone interact with this? Outsourcing or online assessments? No? Cool. So those are the main things we do in terms of automation. Doesn't suit everyone. It's not a silver bullet or anything, and you just have to find something that's right and invest enough time to get it so that the time is put up front, and then you get the gains later on with automatic marking, etc. So now let's look at some things that we do with respect to just marking efficiency. So these are not as amazing as having things automatically grade themselves, but with proper thought, it can certainly be better. You can improve on if you didn't have certain tools. But again, the key is have design in mind. So design is key. You have to design for marking. So some things that we do are we design the assessments so that the students are directed. There's a lot of guidance for them, and this is an example of how we do it using an assignment template. So we give them a template document which then students fill out. So the students are told where to write, how much to write, what we expect under this subheading, and that sort of thing. And that helps the students, but also helps the markers as well. Because the markers then know where to look for certain questions if you're marking a sub-question. And it also limits, it sets expectations in terms of word length and that sort of thing, whether you're supposed to draw a diagram or write text, use a table, etc. It's just providing the direction helps the students and also helps us later on. And in this template we use filler text, and we used to use Lorem Ipsum, and we get students emailing back and say, there's something wrong with my template, it's in a different language, I think it's corrupted. I've downloaded it 5 times and it's still in Greek or whatever language, Latin. And so we changed it to Cheese Ipsum, which obviously is nonsense because you can read it, it's cheese, it's all about cheese, different types of cheese. But then you get students that forget to edit the template and they submit assignments with, I propose to do this cheese thing or this cheese answer. So I think we need to train our students to understand what filler text is. At stage 2, they're a little bit better.
Why put the filler text in there?
To show them, usually it's to show what goes here, as opposed to this is just the heading, don't touch it, versus you should change this text here. Yeah.
Right maximum of 500 words.
You can do that. We do that at stage 2. Yeah. Yeah. It's just that at stage 1, it's just good for them to see, okay, the whole completed thing is 4 pages. This is about 2 paragraphs. This is about 3 paragraphs, that sort of thing. I mean, yeah, you don't have to do it or anything. Yeah.
There's a hand up.
Oh, yes, Fred.
Do you get questions from sort of the A students that want to write more or want to break away from the template?
They usually don't question the structure of the template, but yeah, word limits, A students dislike. They always want to write more. Yeah. But the word limit is generally, it's a holistic word limit. We don't usually say for this answer only write X hundred number of words. Yeah. But I think they appreciate the structure. Yeah. And I'll show you an example of how the structure actually helps markers as well in a later point. This is an example of, so on the left-hand side we've got a test question, a written test question, and on the right-hand side we have an answer booklet. So traditionally, I imagine many departments and courses are still using test booklets and exam booklets like this, where it's completely blank. So students can write any question in any order. They can write as much as they want, or cross it out, do whatever they want, basically. It's completely free range. So what we try to do is we give them an answer booklet with a fixed structure. So it tells you where the answer to this question should go. So we fix the order, and we guide them in terms of this question, for example, it's a short question, but it's asking for 5 components. And if for each component you give an example. So we want several parts out of the question. Basically, we want 10 things. And so we give them the 10 headings under which they need to write. That way the students know what to do, and the markers know where to look, what to look for, etc. So we set the expectation, and the students they're more guided in that respect. And similarly with the next question, it's got 5 subpoints, so we give them the 5 subpoints. And they're really small, so we don't expect them to write very much in this particular question. We just want you to get to the answer and just tell us what it is. And when it works, it's quite beautiful. The student writes the one-word answer that we expect and the one-line example that we expect. No problem there. For some reason, many students feel compelled to just fill in, there is a box, I must take up the box. I will not stop writing until the box is full. You just have to tell them, but you can only tell them so much. You still get stuff like this. And it's usually students that don't really know the answer, so they write as much as they can, hoping maybe I can get some partial marks for something that I've studied.
So just on that,
Yeah.
who's in my department, he says for each mark you've got to write one question, and if you write more, I'm not going to mark anything more, mark the first, and because it does, the students do have to concentrate, and you're right, it's the weak students that ramble.
Yeah. And I was marking an exam yesterday, and we asked for one specific example of blah, blah, blah. They'll write their one and then go, and also, da, da, da. However, they're unsure. Yeah, so definitely next semester I will emphasize write one and one only. Your second one will be ignored. Yeah. These are just more examples of templates in a test. So I know it's hard to see, but the printed text on the left are the headings, so it's guiding the sequence. Because the students can write about any of these 7 things in any order that they want, but when we mark it, we would like to follow a particular sequence just so it's easier for the marker. There's less hunting for the answer. And it's not just short answer questions, you can do all sorts. So this is an example of a question where the student will select one of 2 choices. So which do you think is more risky or which do you think is more costly? And then they have to explain their answer. So this is kind of like a multi-choice. You choose one of the options, but then you have the opportunity to explain yourself, which for students that understand the material is very good. They get to show off what they know and why they chose it. And then for students that just took a lucky guess, it's bad because they chose the right one, but then their answer shows that they just got lucky. Right? So you can basically formulate, you can guide the student's answer for any sort of question really, including modeling. So this is an example of fill in the blank type of thing, complete the drawing, find out where it's wrong. And this is an example of spot the error. So on this picture, there are several errors. Circle them, number them, and write your explanations underneath the numbered box. So it's guided. Students know what to write, what to do, and markers know where to look. with the template, it also gives direction to markers, as I mentioned before. So here's the example. The template that we give, we've used headings, styles rather, using Word. And so when you open a navigation pane, it gives you navigation. So if you're marking a sub-question or something, you can, as a marker, you can jump directly to the sub-question that you want for each student. And that's by virtue of having a template as well. And another way to provide direction, or that it does provide direction for markers, is by using a rubric. And a marking rubric, it's very simple. You decide what quality of answer will get what sort of mark. But what you can do is then you can release this rubric to the students, and this serves as your feedback. And because this particular rubric is digital, we can use the tools and just extract the text and send that exact text as the student's feedback. And that's all automatic. You don't have to do anything. The markers usually don't have to write many other additional comments. They can just use the text that's already there. And later on, I'll show you how we use mail merges to achieve that. Anyone want to interact with rubrics or, yeah?
Are we likely to have this sort of potential in Canvas?
I do not know. Oh, yes, yeah.
It's got a really good rubric tool.
Oh, great.
So you can even have, for one criterion, you can have multiple numbers of columns, so you can vary it.
Fantastic.
So, yeah, very versatile.
Yeah. And the rubric allows you to specify kind of pre-populated feedback as well?
Yeah, for each of your criteria.
Yeah. Great. Yeah. So I guess that's what we're trying to achieve in this particular form. Yeah. All right, so moving on. So that was marking efficiencies. And the key thing is just when you write a question, when you design an assessment, yes, you have to do it so that the students are being tested on what they're supposed to be tested and assessed on what they're supposed to be assessed and execute the right skills. But bear in mind that someone does have to mark this, someone does have to assess it. So be careful with that and be mindful of it as well. Next, I'll talk about overhead, so administrative things, collecting scripts or distributing the scripts to your markers and then redistributing the scripts back to students after they've been marked. Just the admin sort of stuff and data entry, that sort of thing. And a few things that, actually the main thing that we do is we try to digitize everything so that everything is digital. The only things that are paper are things that have to be paper because they're sitting a paper test, a written test. Everything else is submitted online, it's all digital. So even if it's not digital, such as this test here, we scan it in and make it digital. So once we scan the test paper or the exam paper, then we have a digital copy, and that's easy to copy, replicate, and distribute to our markers, allocate to our markers, and at the end of it, you can send it, you can email it to the student to say, here's a copy of your test. And sometimes you'll have the feedback on it and that sort of thing as well. Another thing that this screenshot shows, or this picture shows, is we use little OCR bubbles like that for data entry. So that way as the marker's marking it, they color in the mark, they shade in the mark, and it saves you from doing double data entry later on or anything like that. It saves errors as well. Yeah. Yes.
How do you go about, are you just using the photocopiers here in the building?
We used to, yeah. And so the Ricoh scanners, the top loading tray is a high-speed scanner. You just chuck a stack of paper on there and it just scans it in. You can email it to itself or scan to a folder in your computer. The only thing tricky is removing the staples.
You've got to remove staples,
Yeah.
and then you've got to put it through.
Yeah.
And you've got 1,000 scripts to do that with.
When you have 1,000 scripts, so this is where our department invested in I don't know what you call it, I guess it's an industrial guillotine, which can cut 500, basically cuts a ream at a time. So we slice a ream worth of staples at a time, chuck it into a high-speed scanner that also the department invested in. It's because we do so much scanning that the Ricoh scanners they don't keep up. High-speed scanner that can churn. I can't remember the rate, but it's ridiculous. It's mesmerizing just watching it suck in the paper.
It's like one of those money counting machines.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think Andrew Everhart said it took 2 hours to do 1,000.
Yeah. So Andrew, he we went to count and collect. That took the longest, actually, the counting from the examinations office. We carted it back, got it out of the boxes, and then I went for lunch. Andrew was chopping staples, and he had the whole exam scanned by the time I finished lunch. It was a 2-hour lunch, but he got it, he got it done. Yeah.
But do you get one great big PDF thing delivered to you that's your 1,000 scripts?
You do.
There are now
But,
programs that
yeah.
automatically split into 1,000 different students and rename automatically
Yeah.
with their student IDs.
Yeah. So we do those. But
Do you get much errors in terms of, I use the Rico scanner often and pages sticking together and all those other sorts of things that can happen?
I haven't had a page stuck together problem where it's misscanned, but I have had, there was a little tear in one of the sheets and it just chewed it up. And that, yeah, thankfully it was a blank page. But sometimes you can salvage it as well, you know, you can flatten it out and scan it manually and, you know, you can still mark it.
And how do you check that everything was scanned?
I normally do, so you know the number of students that sat the test/exam and you know number of pages per script. So every file you get will be a multiple of that. Yeah. And it's unlikely that you're out by 10 or 12 or, yeah. And with these, so when you have 1,000, sorry, I'll get back to you. When you have 1,000 students, you do need specialized tools. But even in my smaller classes, where we have about 200, I just use a Ricoh scanner, a normal guillotine, and Excel. And I use that to split PDFs, rename PDFs. You can do pretty much everything with Excel as well, on a simpler scale. Did you ever?
I was going to say, the one where Andrew's been using it
Mm.
is with CrowdMark,
Mm.
but the trouble is that costs $7 a script.
I'll get to that.
Yeah, okay. No, but it handles it all. You don't have to worry because it's all that each student's there. Whereas you can imagine trying to handle 100 different, 1,000 different PDFs would be hard.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Some other digital tools. Online marking forms. And the goal with this is to get rid of the whole data entry error and that sort of thing. So if your assessments are digital, then your markers will be opening on a computer to mark it anyway. Then you give them an online or a digital tool to mark it, which you can have the rubric embedded, that sort of thing. So in this particular example, you click on the form to select the marks, but there's also things like predetermined feedback. So if there's issues with any of these particular things, you can tick it, and the students will say there was issues with these things that were ticked. Or you can make these more specific and have predetermined feedback sentences, I guess, that the marker can tick. And it's all digital, so it's all done for you. And then all this ends up on a spreadsheet, which you then convert to Excel, mail merge it, send it out to your students for personalized feedback, etc. So these sort of things just handle the administrative overhead. You don't have to collect any scripts because your students are submitting it online, and you don't have to do any fancy redistribution or anything like that. You don't have to say, come to my office and collect the second pile of your marking, swap piles with this person, that sort of thing. Yeah. And so this is just a simple Google form. There are more complex solutions like that PDF form that I showed you earlier, but anyone can do this, and it just gets saved to a Google spreadsheet, which is, you can easily export it to Excel, save it to Excel. And this is the thing that Alex alluded to. This is a screenshot of CrowdMark. And I believe, yeah, only stage 1, so Emphasis 110 is using this. So this is a picture of a scanned exam page. I've opened up question 39 to start marking. You can put on ticks, you can put on crosses, you can write comments, and you can draw, so freeform, circle stuff, whatever. And you enter in the mark, and you can go to next question, next page, next student, next unmarked question. It's really, it does it all, really. The main thing is the cost. It is expensive. However, if more and more courses start using it, because it's paid for already. Andrew's the expert in this, but he's told me it's paid for already. If more courses start using this, it's cheaper overall. So I'm the wrong person to talk to, but I'm happy to take questions, and we can discuss with Andrew when he's back on Monday.
So one thing that does mean is that you've actually got to think about the questions you ask, because I
Yep.
just talked to Andrew about 10 minutes the other day trying to think about it, and it's hard to read over two two pages.
Mm.
And so what he's done is actually split the questions up, so maximum of 1 page, that's all they can write. And it seems to work well, so instead of the longer questions, just shorter ones.
Yeah, yeah.
Is this being used for the test or exam as well?
This is for the exam.
So it's being approved by the examinations office because it's all pre-printed?
Yeah, so it's basically the stage 1 exam answer booklet is a more advanced version of this with QR codes and all sorts of other codes on it, barcodes and things to mark the end of script and that sort of thing, which CrowdMark then reads and interprets and sorts it out for you. Yeah. Yeah. I've only spent about 10 minutes on this, so I just marked a few questions and jumped out of it, but it is easy. The key thing is you have to design it so that your script is compatible. And like Alice said, you have to design your questions so that they don't span over 1 page, otherwise it gets hard to mark. So it's the design, it's the overhead, it's the thought that goes into it before you start publishing your assessment, that sort of thing. Yeah, that's what counts. And just if you digitize everything, including digital submissions, then that just takes care of students handing in late and that sort of thing, and distributing it to your markers, and also redistributing back to your students. So for most of our courses at Stage 1, Stage 2, all the assessments are submitted digitally. So we don't do paper assessments anymore. Even if it is drawn on paper, we get them to scan it and submit the scanned PDF. We just don't, and that way you have a copy of what was submitted at the time. Nothing gets lost. Students can't, when they get their test back, they can't change their answer and bring it back to you and try to be sneaky or anything like that. That hasn't happened often, but it does happen. So having a scanned copy insulates you against that. And so on Cecil, it's really simple to do. You just tick, when you design an activity and assessment, you just tick turn on the Dropbox and just have a play with it. It's really simple. You can set deadlines and that sort of thing. But in addition to that, there are so many other already existing solutions out there. So Turnitin takes a doc or a PDF, for example. And the science faculty, they use, I think beyond the science faculty even, they use Assignment Dropbox. And our own department, we use a Submit drive, a Windows drive that's set up for us. But all of these, the good news is you don't have to worry about any of these because starting next year, Canvas will do this all for you. Online submissions, etc., and file management. Yeah. So I'm not a salesperson for Canvas or anything, but it just has all the obvious stuff that we've been doing and needing for a long time. And the other thing with respect to feedback, especially the kind of individualized feedback or handing scripts back to students, we use mail merge. And so all of the previous solutions where we digitize submissions, digitize the marking, that ultimately ends up in some sort of spreadsheet, usually an Excel spreadsheet. And then from there, we can couple that with the Word mail merge feature and generate either individual PDFs for each student or individual emails for each student so that they get their own marks. So the spreadsheet has all the students' marks, and on the Word document, you just make a template so that the students know what they got for each question. And you can put the class average next to it. You can do all sorts of stuff with it. You can even put their ranking and also customize feedback. So anything that the marker wrote that's specifically for that student, that can be thrown in there as well, right? And I'll just show you an example of a more elaborate mail merge. So this is a file an email that gets sent to students. It's for a particular student, which I've anonymized, and it's got the class average, but it's also got their particular marks and what we would estimate their grade to be. And this particular student ranked number 200. So you can put in their ranking, you can put in all these other things that make it look like this is just for you, even though every other student gets it, right? And you can show them stats and things like that. And also, what we do at Stage 1 is it tells you what they got for a particular question, but also we've written what a good question looks like, and we've put in examples of answers that got full marks. So this isn't their answer, but this is the one that got full marks. And they'll also send in the same email an attachment of their test script so they can compare. You know, if I didn't get full marks, then, you know, what did these answers have? So we put in several. What did these answers have, or in this case only one, but what did these answers have that I was lacking? And it just helps them to see some of their classmates' work in high quality full mark work, or stuff that we would have deemed to full marks. And also gives you something to go by when they come to your office hours looking for feedback or saying, why didn't I get these marks, or how could I have done better? You just open up or tell them to open up that particular email and go through it with them. Yes?
Do students get permission for their work to be shown to other students?
No, because it's anonymized. Yeah. I don't think we've asked for permission. Don't tell them. I imagine it'd be a good feeling to see your thing as the example. You know, here's what we thought was a good answer. Oh, here's mine. You know, you probably want to tell everyone that it's yours. Yeah.
You don't do the opposite though, the lowest.
We don't know. There's no shaming.
Exactly.
I mean, we shame them in our own meetings, but we don't share that with the students. Yes.
I'm wondering if other people are as lost as me in the thing between the mail merge and the spreadsheet,
Right.
or not, because it looks fabulous, but from there I'm thinking, so where would I go to get what the hell you're actually talking about in terms of how you set it up?
Yeah. So have you used the mail merge before in Word? Okay. So it's if you have, it's simple. So what it does is,
How does it connect to an Excel spreadsheet?
so on a Word document, you create the template.
Word.
Yeah, it's a Word thing.
Yeah.
And then in there you say, you type in the text that you want seen, and any customized text, you can pull it from an Excel spreadsheet. So basically each row in the Excel spreadsheet can be a separate email or a separate document that it can generate. Yeah, and so each one is a row for a particular student.
Get someone else to do it.
Yeah.
Show me taking several hours of reiteration.
Oh yeah, just outsource that sort of stuff. Yeah.
It's actually quite easy. I have relied on Ron for years and learned to do it myself.
Yeah, but I did notice the word years in that. It's quite easy.
So the years was David telling me to do it. And then finally in one semester he just thought, this can't be too hard. If Ron can do it, I can do it. And you've been mail merging yourself from now on, right? Yeah. It's a simple tool but so powerful. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. So this is a really long document just because for every question there's a few examples and stats and that sort of thing. And that's really rich for the students. And from our point of view, you spend a few hours setting up this template, and every semester you just update the model answers, update the stats. That's it. Click send, wait a few minutes, and it's sent to 1,000 students, literally 1,000 students.
You're making us all look bad, though.
No, see, that's why my disclaimer at the very beginning was I'm not an expert. And so, first of all, this isn't the entirety of what we do. There's a lot of manual stuff that we do. This is just all the cool stuff that we try to do. And also, I've seen a lot of faces here. I'm seeing a lot of faces here that I see in all these other seminars. So I'm really preaching to the converted. I know so many of you do all these other cool things, which is why I want people to share your experiences. And some of the stuff, I don't know, maybe there's just I'm just trying to sell it, make it look all cool. It's actually not as amazing as it sounds. So there will be people in there that know, oh, I've done that before, and actually it doesn't save that much time overall. Yeah, it's just more if you can get it right, and if you can, over, say, 3 or 4 semesters, get it down to a really efficient process and down to a fine art, then you start reaping the benefits. Yeah, so it's all about the design, it's all about the effort up front. Angela?
One thing Andrew always says is that the one downside is once students have experienced this level of service or feedback, they expect it elsewhere.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean. Right on stage 1 course.
Well, you're here,
Oh,
you're
right.
here, so it's great.
Right. Yeah. I think by stage 3 they forget. Because the grumbles normally come in stage 2. But then they disappear in stage 3. They're so busy trying to actually do the assignment, they forget how amazing stage 1 was and how simple it was. Yeah.
Do you think it's possible to teach literacy using these tools?
What do you mean by literacy? Sorry.
I mean things like whether you are actually writing in sentences, whether you
Oh, that level of literacy.
you know, whether you are choosing the right words, whether your grammar, syntax and
There's a-
punctuation
Grammarly.
Grammarly, you want Grammarly for that.
Yeah, but Grammarly is very flawed according to what I've read about it. I've read an article where somebody used it and they gave all the examples of what it got wrong.
Well, we use it a lot, and we find
Okay.
that it improves
That
international
knowledge-
cohorts really enormously,
That
especially if
knowledge,
it's used in
some
the right way.
things were good, but you know there were quite a few choices it made that were impossible.
Very different experience on the side of things, but I
Mm.
won't I won't take away from it.
Yeah.
The things with things like Grammarly, and even Turnitin has a grammar checker thing. I think the goal isn't so much to teach them outright and fix all their problems outright. It's to reduce the errors before they submit. And so the students have a chance by themselves, with minimal input from staff, to learn something and to correct their own mistakes beforehand. Yeah, I think you'd be hard-pressed to find something that would just magically teach them or solve all grammatical errors.
That sort of
Yeah.
stuff of academic literacy, which is where you're showing critical analysis.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
incorporation.
Yeah. So with that, you would, I mean, if that's part of your assessment, you would build it into your assessment where, to gain marks, you have to, there's kind of the convincingness of your argument, the strength of your argument, and the professionalism with which you've written it and that sort of thing. Yeah. So in that case, you'd be guiding, as an example, if you would guide the students, you would set that expectation and say there are 5% of your marks are allocated to professionalism, or 10% of your marks are allocated to correct use of grammar and that sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say maybe try and have a conversation with KTN, because the way they use Grammarly is what makes it valuable rather than just the tool itself. So if you email her and say, you know, can I chat to you about
I
it,
probably
that'd be
wouldn't.
quite useful.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. So, that's my 3 topics covered. I don't have much else to share, but just beyond, beyond the courses that I'm involved in, there are many, many other things. So, with respect to multi-choice assessments or auto-marked assessments, people use clickers, and they're assessed as well, so it's part of their formal assessment. There's also simulations. That's another example of outsourcing your marking. So things like Mike's Bikes, students will enroll in that program, they will learn, they will do, but they also get a grade at the end of it, which is determined by the simulation, determined by the program. And I recently heard, I think it was David Robb, he talked about the Harvard Business Publishing. They have a whole bunch of simulations. So if you just Google Harvard simulation, that's probably the first hit. So check those out. And so that's the sort of thing that can just do the assessments for you, do the teaching for you, and you can use it to build on the theory and that sort of thing, but the marking side of things is all taken care of. There's also peer marking. We don't do that for a good reason at stage 1. It's very risky. But in terms of the solutions for that, there is a Turnitin peer marking. I can't remember what it's called. Oh, it's called PeerMark. There we go. There's guides and stuff on the staff intranet. So you could check that out. There's also Aropa. You can check that out as well. And online rubrics, so you don't have to do anything. You don't have to make it yourself. You don't have to do anything fancy. Turnitin has a rubric. And as you mentioned, Canvas has a built-in rubric, so we get to experience that next year. And of course, there's a lot to look forward to with Canvas coming in. A lot of digital support, things that we do kind of manually now, it's all kind of built into our future LMS.
A lot of courses are now thinking about marking assessments anonymously, so the marker doesn't recognise students by name. So the system Andrea has developed with the OMR, the marking, the bubbles. The med school is now using that for all the assessments. The students just get a script with a unique barcode, and every page in that booklet has the same barcode. So the front page gets removed, all the markers get their own pages or sections to mark, and then it's all compiled through the scanner. It doesn't have to be in any order. The scanning software recognises the barcode and reassembles reaggregates all the pages into one student record, and it's been fantastic. It's allowed us to turn over and actually spend the time on marking instead of having to budget for the time for manual tabulations.
Do you scan after marking or before
We
marking?
scan after marking.
Scan after marking.
So we don't
Okay.
use CrowdMark yet,
Right.
but
Right.
we use the OMR
Okay.
software.
Cool.
And have you got a special scanner?
Yeah, so we used to use the Ricoh, just the normal photocopier as well. That's worked well. It's worked well for my small class of 120. But for my large class of 1200, it took me about 8 hours. It took me to midnight. So after that, I spoke with my boss, and we had some money left over, and we got a fast speed scanner as well. We can circulate the model number if you want. It's really good. It literally counts like the money machine
Yeah,
in the banks.
that's amazing.
Really fast. And it never misses a page. As
Yeah.
well, hasn't so far.
Hasn't yet. That's right.
Yeah. And as it scans, it shows up how many pages it has scanned as you go. So if there's a mismatch, you can pick it up really quickly.
That's all I've got to share. So thank you so much for the people that contributed and shared your experiences as well, and all the questions are valuable as well. So that's it from me. Thank you.
Can I ask Angela, how does what Ron has described in CrowdMark and so on tie in with the way that you guys have used MCQ results?
So MCQ results provides each student with individualised feedback on their performance in MCQ assessments without divulging the actual questions to the student, so we can recycle the questions. CrowdMark we haven't used in our faculty yet, but there's potential for any MCQ feedback using question mark or the old CESO Explorer, whatever format. There's a way to provide personalised and immediate feedback to students through MCQ. So MCQ results work with Scantron forms as well as teleforms as well as these bubbles. So it doesn't matter what the format is, as long as it's got the numbers, it can churn out the feedback and email to students directly.
And are you still making full use of that?
MCQ results,
Yep.
yes.
Is that a software?
Yeah, so that's been developed through FMHS, so it was Dan Exeter and then Roger Booth has sort of perfected it, I gather. And I know that again the students have been so impressed at sitting a test in the afternoon and having their feedback tailored, because if they've got these ones, these questions wrong, they get feedback tailored for those wrong answers within a couple of hours sometimes. Yeah, so they love that, naturally.
That's right.
Actually, I have a question about, I tried looking at teleforms and scantrons. Can we request our own test to be scanned using the Scantron? I couldn't find out where to do that.
Yes, you can. If you have Scantron forms.
Yeah. So first of all, do we just request, can you give me some forms, some teleform sheets, Scantron sheets rather?
Scantron forms are provided by the exams office
Yeah.
for exams only.
Oh, okay.
So for tests, you have to buy them.
Right.
And we print them, and I think there's a cost of 10 cents per sheet.
Right.
But I think the OMR bubbles will eventually replace
Yeah.
our use of Scantron forms, or reduce our use of
Right.
Scantron forms.
Yeah.
But we have a machine upstairs, so just I'll hook you up. So if you need
I was just wondering,
yeah.
because we do it ourselves now, but I know that the university does scanning, so
I was,
we can
it was
make
my
use of
understanding
that.
you guys have like 5 Scantron machines here as well.
They're very well hidden.
Rich was to
I think we've got the little ones.
yeah.
They're just
Oh.
like about this big, and you
They're
stick
not
sheets
large.
on one side and they get sucked across.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you guys have 5 locally
Cool.
in this building. So
I'll go talk to Karen.
Yeah, there's obviously
Karen.
been, like they were bought for Business 101.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
I see.
So
Yeah.
talk to Karen.
Cool.
But the bubbles are more flexible.
Yeah.
than Scantrons.
What I find really valuable about all this is having heard the other day that John Hattie's released his latest update of meta-analyses of effects on learning. I was looking back at at the effect sizes for everything, and right at the very top is self-evaluation for students, okay? So that's at the very peak. And so anything that we can do that helps students self-evaluate how they are going against their learning goals is really the pinnacle of what we're trying to achieve. So all of these things, like your Malmerge example, where that kind of tailored feedback, this is how you went, this is how you're going compared to the past, here are model answers for you to compare your work against, all that's hitting the nail absolutely on the head. And the other thing too about rubrics, I mean, I had trouble imagining teaching now actually without rubrics. So I think, why have we kept this information secret from students for so long? This is what we're seeking to achieve. And of course, a lot of the time, we didn't know exactly what we were seeking to achieve until we created the rubric, because we have to really reflect on it and also talk to our colleagues if we're team teaching. So once we have a rubric, that's really what we're after. And the great thing is we can then hand that over to students and have them acting as the teachers. So as you mentioned, there's the potential for setting up peer marking, and so Turnitin has peer mark, and we're going to be able to do the same thing in Canvas. Hand that marking task over to the students. By the time you've evaluated a couple of pieces of your peers' work and you've gained a couple of evaluations of your own work, the depth of your understanding of what an ideal product looks like is fantastic, and you have the ability then to polish it up and submit a really good quality piece of work. So it's potentially, really powerful. And that might be, Susan, where in terms of literacy, the more complex feedback that a student needs to get beyond sort of multi-choice or even potentially automated evaluation of their work, I'd say, if you can sufficiently school up your students to be able to then give that feedback, kind of guided by a rubric, you're probably on the right track.
And even if it isn't actually assessed, it can be helpful doing that as part of
we released the rubrics to our students. I think one of the things is they don't appreciate how valuable it is. And I think the missing link may be that because we don't get them to use it to mark. And I think maybe if they do that, then they'll realize, actually, this is what I'm doing, exactly what the markers are going to do to my work in 2 weeks' time or something. So that could be the missing link. But certainly you need to educate your students to show them how valuable it is. Maybe even take them through a kind of mock marking session or something, just so they know these words actually mean something. It's not just a page full of words that I ignore and just look at the numbers and try to hit all the top numbers. But get them to see the value of a rubric as a learning tool for them, a self-assessment tool as well. Let's go have lunch again.